The moment the envelope touched the table, Cruz stopped chewing. His fork hovered mid-air, a piece of seared salmon trembling on the tines. Natasha's eyes darted between us, her hand still wrapped around her wineglass. "What's this?" Cruz asked, voice low, controlled. "Exactly what it looks like," I said, folding my napkin and placing it beside my untouched plate. "Divorce papers." Natasha's lips parted, but no sound came out. Her fingers clutched the stem of her glass so tightly I thought it might snap. That was the moment, the exact second their world cracked open. But let me rewind. My name is Sloane. I used to be a lawyer, then I became a wife, then a mother. Somewhere along the way I disappeared. It didn't happen all at once. It was gradual, like water wearing down stone. 1,000 small cuts disguised as compliments, suggestions, and smiles that didn't reach their eyes. I used to have an office, a desk with my name on a brass plate. I argued cases in heels that clicked like gunshots down courthouse hallways. Then came Cruz, tall, magnetic, with a smile that made you forget your own name. He was already successful. I was ambitious. We were a power couple, until we weren't. "Why don't you take some time off after Ty is born?" he'd said. "Just a year, then you can go back." That was 10 years ago. Now I'm the woman who packs lunches, signs permission slips, and listens to Natasha explain why children need a mother at home, not some woman chasing a career. That afternoon, Natasha was perched on the edge of the velvet chaise she insisted we keep in the sunroom, sipping tea like a queen. I'd just mentioned, casually, that I was thinking of returning to law. "Oh, darling," she said, her voice honeyed with condescension. "Your place is at home. Cruz knows what's best." Cruz didn't say a word, just kept scrolling through his phone like I wasn't even there. Later that night, I tried again, in our bedroom, while folding his dry-cleaned shirts. "I've been thinking about going back to work," I said. Cruz didn't look up. "We don't need the money." "It's not about that." He sighed. "Then what's it about, Sloane? You're already busy with the kids. You're doing great at home." I stared at him. I didn't go to law school to learn how to make dinosaur-shaped pancakes. He laughed. "Well, you're damn good at it." I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I tried to transfer some money from our joint account. $1,000. Nothing major. The app gave me an error. I checked again. Same result. When I asked Cruz, he shrugged. "I put some limits on the accounts. We've been spending a lot lately, just trying to monitor the budget." "But it's a joint account. And I'm managing it. Don't worry, you'll have everything you need." That was the moment I realized I was no longer a partner. I was an employee, no paycheck, no benefits, no exit strategy. I smiled, nodded, and walked away. That night, after everyone was asleep, I opened my laptop. Just muscle memory, really. I typed in my old law school's website. I hadn't logged in for years. I didn't even expect it to work. But there it was, a blinking banner at the top of the page. "Your reaccreditation portal is now open." I stared at it for a long time. Then I smiled, for the first time in days. The next morning, I made pancakes in the shape of stars. Tori rolled her eyes and Ty squealed with joy. Cruz kissed my cheek and said, "See, this is your real job." I kissed him back. Then I cleared the plates and opened a new tab on my phone under the table. I enrolled in my first online course that afternoon. I didn't tell anyone, not even Kendall, my closest friend from law school. Not yet. I waited until Natasha started rearranging our kitchen without asking. Until she started correcting the way I spoke to my daughter. "Don't be so emotional, Tori," she said one afternoon. "You're sounding just like your mother." Waited until Cruz came home with a diamond bracelet and said, "I'm proud of you for accepting your place." My place? I smiled and thanked him. Then I messaged Kendall. "You busy? I need a favour." She called me within 5 minutes. Her voice was exactly the same, sharp, warm, no nonsense. "Tell me everything," she said. I did. She didn't say, "I told you so." She didn't say, "I knew he was a controlling prick." She just said, "Let's get to work." We built a schedule. Mornings were for the kids, afternoons for housework, late nights for contracts, torts, and case law. Kendall helped me cover my digital trail. I used a burner email, cleared my history, took notes by hand. I was careful, so careful. But I was also watching Cruz come home later and later, watching Natasha whisper in Tori's ear, watching the way they smiled at me like I was their favourite pet. One night, Cruz left his laptop open. I wasn't snooping, I swear. I just went to close it. But then I saw the spreadsheet. Numbers, transfers, a name I didn't recognise. Offshore. I took a photo with my phone. Then I took the USB drive from his drawer. I didn't sleep that night either, but this time it wasn't fear keeping me awake. It was adrenaline. The next morning, I made waffles, heart-shaped. Natasha said, "You're glowing, dear." I smiled and said, "Thank you." The first time I lied to Cruz, it was about a dentist appointment. "I've got a cleaning at 2, I said, pulling on my coat. "Should be back before school pick-up." He barely looked up from his phone. "Take your time." I walked out the door, got in my car, and drove to Kendall's office instead. Her firm was in a converted brownstone, clean lines, exposed brick, and the kind of calm that made you feel like you were about to make good decisions. She met me at the door with 2 coffees and a grin. "Welcome back," she said, handing me a cup. "You're officially in the game." We sat in the glass-walled conference room, laptops open, files spread out. I handed her the USB. "He's hiding something," I said. "I just don't know what yet." Kendall plugged it in, eyes scanning the folders. "Well, let's find out." While she clicked through spreadsheets, I pulled out my notebook, handwritten notes from the online classes, outlines, case summaries. I'd been studying every night, sometimes until 2 a.m., headphones in, lectures whispering through the dark. "You're ahead of schedule," Kendall said without looking up. "You could sit for the bar again in 6 months. I want to be ready in 3. She glanced at me. "You're serious?" I nodded. I'm done asking for permission. At home, I played the role to perfection. I hosted brunches, smiled at Natasha's critiques, laughed at Cruz's jokes. I made Pinterest-level birthday cupcakes for Ty's class. I let Tori roll her eyes and slam her door. But behind the scenes, I was building a new life. 1 module, 1 case brief, 1 encrypted file at a time. I started keeping a second planner, hidden in the back of the pantry behind the rice cooker. Every hour accounted for. Study time colour-coded in blue, phone calls in red, dentist appointments in green. One afternoon, while I was reviewing a mock exam in the laundry room, Natasha walked in without knocking. "What are you doing?" she asked, eyes narrowing. "Just folding sheets," I said, slipping the papers under the basket. She stepped closer. "You know, I worry about you. All this free time. It's not healthy. Idle hands and all that." I smiled. "Don't worry, I keep plenty busy." She touched my arm. "You should talk to Cruz about getting some help. Maybe a part-time housekeeper. You've been looking tired." I nodded, biting my tongue. That's thoughtful. That night, Cruz came home with a wrapped box. "For you," he said, placing it on the kitchen counter. "Just because." I opened it. A gold watch, elegant, expensive, and completely not my style. "I'm proud of you," he said, kissing my forehead, "for accepting your place." I almost laughed. Instead, I said, "Thank you," slipped the watch on, and made spaghetti for dinner. Later, after the kids were asleep, I logged into our account again. The same one Cruz had limited for budgeting purposes. The balance was lower than it should have been. Again. I cross-checked it against the screenshots I'd taken 2 weeks ago. A new transfer. Same offshore account name as the one on the spreadsheet. I took another photo. The next morning, I told Cruz I was volunteering at Ty's school. He kissed me goodbye, told me to have fun playing room, Mum. I drove straight to Kendall's. She was already waiting with Shane, a partner at the firm. He was tall, sharp, and had the kind of presence that made you sit up straighter. "You're sure you want to do this?" he asked. "Yes," I said, "but I'm not ready to file. Not yet." Kendall slid a folder across the table. "Then let's make sure when you are, it's airtight." We worked for hours, asset tracing, prenup loopholes, custody groundwork. Shane pointed out clauses Cruz had likely forgotten existed. Kendall flagged a section that could allow me to isolate some of my shares from marital property. I left with a USB of my own and a plan. At home, I was back in character. I made chicken pot pie from scratch, cleaned the baseboards, and helped Ty build a volcano for science class. But things were shifting. Tori was getting quieter around me, more guarded. One evening, I walked past her room and heard Natasha's voice through the cracked door. "She's just confused, sweetheart. Your mother used to be smart, but she gave that up. It's hard for her." I stood there, frozen. Tori didn't respond. Later, I knocked gently and stepped inside. She was lying on her bed, scrolling through her phone. "Hey," I said, "you okay?" She shrugged. I sat on the edge of the bed. "I know things have felt weird lately." Another shrug. "I'm still me," I said, "even if I'm not doing what I used to." She looked up, eyes sharp. "Are you?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" "I saw your notebook," she said. "The one behind the rice cooker." My stomach dropped. "I didn't read it all," she added quickly. "Just enough to know you're hiding something." I exhaled. I'm trying to get my license back, to practice law again." "Why didn't you just tell Dad?" I looked at her, really looked. Her face was still round with youth, but her eyes were Cruz, watchful, sceptical. "Because he wouldn't understand," I said. She nodded slowly. "He wouldn't." She didn't say anything else, just rolled over and pulled the blanket up. I closed the door behind me and leaned against the wall, heart pounding. The next morning, Natasha stopped me in the hallway. "I hear you've been busy," she said, voice light but eyes hard. I smiled, just trying to keep up. She leaned in. "Don't forget who pays the bills, dear." I leaned closer. "Don't forget who keeps the receipts." Her smile faltered for half a second. Then she turned and walked away. And I went to the pantry, pulled out my planner, and wrote in bold red ink, "It's working." I slipped the USB into Kendall's hand under the table at a downtown cafe. She tucked it into her purse like we were passing state secrets. "You're sure he doesn't know?" she asked, sipping her coffee. "He thinks I'm researching new recipes," I said. "He even told Ty I should start a blog." Kendall snorted. "God, he's lucky you haven't poisoned him." "Yet," I said, smiling. She pulled out her tablet and opened the files. "Okay, let's see what Prince Charming's been hiding." I watched her eyes scan the screen, her expression shifting from curious to tight-lipped. "Holy hell," she muttered. "You weren't kidding." "What is it?" "There are at least 3 shell companies. One's registered in the Caymans. And this is a payout to a consulting firm that doesn't exist." I leaned forward. "Could he be laundering? Or hiding assets in case he divorces you?" she said. "Either way, this is gold." I sat back. My hands were cold, but my spine felt steel straight. "Let's keep digging," I said. "I want to know everything." That night, I made lasagna and played board games with the kids while Cruz took a call in his office. I heard him laugh, loud, confident. The sound used to make me feel safe. Now it made me want to throw a chair through the window. After the kids were asleep, I went into his office. I didn't touch anything. I just looked. There was a drawer he always locked. The key was in his jacket, hanging by the door. Inside, a passport, a burner phone, and another flash drive. I took photos of everything. Then I put it all back exactly as I found it. The next morning, I met Kendall and Shane at the firm. Shane had already printed the documents I sent. "He's been moving money for over a year," Shane said, "and he's sloppy," Kendall added. "We can use this to argue he breached fiduciary duty in the marriage. That gives us leverage." I nodded. "Let's keep building." Shane looked at me. "You're good at this." "I used to be better," I said. "You're still sharp," he said. "Just rusty." I smiled. "Give me a few more weeks." Back home, Natasha had taken it upon herself to reorganize the pantry. Again, "I thought it would make things easier," she said, stacking my labelled bins into new categories. "You've been so busy lately." I forced a smile. "Thanks." She lowered her voice. "Tori told me you've been secretive." My jaw clenched. "Teenagers are dramatic." She leaned in. "We're just trying to help you stay grounded. You've always been sensitive." I stared at her. "You mean difficult?" She smiled. "I mean emotional. It's not a flaw, Sloane. It's just who you are." I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, "Thanks for the insight." That night, I pulled out the old photo album, the one from Cruz's childhood. I flipped through pages until I found the one I was looking for. His father, standing stiffly next to Natasha, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. I remembered something he told me once years ago when Natasha wasn't around. "She likes her men quiet," he'd said, "and obedient." He died of a heart attack when Tori was 5. Natasha cried at the funeral, but her makeup didn't smudge. I called Kendall the next day. "Do you remember a woman named Alice?" I asked. There was a pause. "That name's familiar." "She was married to Cruz's uncle, Eugene." "Oh my God," she said. "Alice filed a suit against the family in the 90s, harassment and coercion, I think. It disappeared fast, sealed settlement." "I want to find her. I'll see what I can do." Later that week, I got an email from the firm. Shane had forwarded me a memo. Preliminary approval for a probationary position. I would be shadowing him on 2 cases. Discreetly. I stared at the screen for a full minute before I let myself breathe. I texted Kendall. "Got it. I'm in." She replied with a single word. "Finally." That Friday, I told Cruz I was taking Ty to a play date. Instead, I met Shane at a client meeting. He let me take notes, ask questions, even challenge a clause in a contract. "You've still got it," he said afterward. "Feels good," I admitted. He smiled. "This is just the beginning." Back home, the house was quiet. Tori was in her room with headphones on. Ty was watching cartoons. Cruz was in his office. I went to check on Ty. He jumped up and handed me a piece of paper. "Look what I found, Mummy!" It was the draft of the divorce paperwork, the one I'd printed and stashed in a folder behind the books in the guest room. My heart stopped. "Where did you get this?" I asked, kneeling down. "In the closet. I was looking for my race car track." I hugged him tight. "Thank you, baby. Let's keep this our little secret, okay?" He nodded. "Okay." I kissed his forehead and walked straight to the office. Cruz was on a call. I waited in the doorway. He looked up, saw the paper in my hand, and his face changed. "What's that?" I didn't answer. He ended the call. "Sloane, what is that?" I walked in slowly, placed the paper on his desk. "You tell me." He picked it up, scanned it, jaw tightening. "You're planning a divorce?" I didn't flinch. I was exploring options. "You think this is a game?" "No," I said. "I think it's a negotiation." He stood up. "You're being irrational." I met his eyes. "And you're being sloppy." He stepped closer. "You don't want to do this." I tilted my head. "Don't I?" We stared at each other for a long moment. Then I turned and walked out. In the hallway, Ty was waiting. "Mommy?" I crouched down. "Yeah, baby? Are you mad?" "No," I said softly. "I'm just getting ready." "For what?" I smiled. "To win." The tea Natasha poured was steaming. She set the delicate china cup in front of me like we were two old friends catching up, not two women circling each other with knives hidden behind our backs. "I'm glad you asked to talk," she said, settling into her chair. "It's important that we stay aligned." I stirred the tea once, twice, then set the spoon down. "Tell me what happened to Alice." Her smile didn't even flicker. "Excuse me? Alice? Eugene's wife, the one who sued your family and then vanished." Natasha's fingers tightened around her cup. "That's ancient history." "Still history," I said, "and still relevant." She took a long sip before answering. "Alice was unstable. She made accusations, stirred up trouble, and when things didn't go her way, she took a settlement and disappeared. Or she was silenced." Natasha's eyes met mine. "Why would you bring this up now?" "Because I see the pattern," I said. "Control, isolation, gaslighting. Your fingerprints are all over it." She set her cup down with a soft clink. "You're spiraling, Sloane, and you're dragging your children down with you." I leaned forward. "You don't get to talk about my children. I'm protecting them." "No," I said, "you're grooming them. Tori parrots your opinions like scripture." "Because I teach her how to be strong." "No," I said, voice low, "you're teaching her how to disappear." She blinked, just once. But it was enough. I stood. "Thank you for the tea," I said. "Next time I'll bring the questions in writing." I didn't wait for her to respond. Later that night, I met Kendall in the parking lot behind her office. She handed me a folder. Alice was paid off. NDA, settlement, the works. But look at this. She filed a second complaint with the state bar. It was buried, but it's still there. I flipped through the copies. And Eugene? Still on several boards, still shady as hell. "Think he'll talk?" Kendall smiled. "He'll squirm." Over the next few weeks, I started shadowing Shane more regularly. He let me review contracts, prep briefs, even sit in on strategy meetings. Every time I walked through that office door, I felt like I was stepping back into myself. One afternoon, he handed me a thick file. "Custody case. Similar structure to what you're dealing with. Study it." I took it and nodded. "Thank you." He paused. "You're doing good work, Sloane. You've got instincts." "Instincts won't win this." "No," he said, "but they'll keep you alive until the paperwork does." That night, I got home late. The house was quiet. Cruz was in the living room, sipping whiskey, staring at the TV. "You've been gone a lot," he said, without looking at me. "I've been busy." He turned to face me. "Doing what?" I shrugged. "Learning how to protect myself." He set the glass down. "You think you're smarter than me." "No," I said. "I know I am." He stood up. "You want a war?" I walked past him. "I want a choice." The next morning, I found Tori sitting on the front steps, arms crossed. "Are you and Dad getting divorced?" I sat beside her. "We're not there yet." "But you're thinking about it?" I nodded. "I'm thinking about what's best. For me, for you, for Ty." She looked away. "He says you're being dramatic, that you're making things up." "I'm not." She was quiet for a long time. Then, "I don't know who to believe." I didn't push. "That's okay. Just promise me you'll keep asking questions." She nodded, but her face stayed blank. Later that week, Shane pulled me aside after a meeting. "We're ready to bring you on officially. Probationary for now, but your name will be on the door." I stared at him. "You're serious?" "You earned it." I signed the papers that day. My hand didn't shake. The next morning, I wore a navy blazer, pulled my hair into a low bun, and walked into the kitchen like I owned the place. Natasha looked me up and down. Job interview? Something like that. She smiled, tight and cold. Don't forget, dear, this house runs because you do. I poured my coffee. Not for long. That afternoon I met Shane in his office. He handed me a thick envelope. Divorce filing, emergency custody request, asset freeze, it's all here. I took it. We wait for the right moment. Got one in mind? I nodded. They're planning a family trip to Italy next month. I'll time it then. He raised a brow. You're ruthless. No, I said. I'm prepared. Back at home, Ty was in the backyard, playing with his toy trucks. I sat on the porch watching him when Tori stepped outside. She sat beside me, silent. After a while, she asked, Did Grandma really make Alice leave? I looked at her. She helped. Tori stared at the grass. Dad said she was crazy. Sometimes people say that when they want to discredit someone. Is that what they're doing to you? I didn't answer. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I wrapped my arm around her and held her close. Inside, my phone buzzed. A message from Kendall. We're ready when you are. I looked at my daughter, at the boy running in circles with dirt on his knees, and I whispered, Almost. Cruz slammed the divorce draft onto the kitchen island so hard the salt shaker jumped. You really think you're going to win? He barked. I didn't flinch. I was slicing strawberries for Ty's lunchbox. I think I'm going to survive. He stepped closer. You've been sneaking around, lying to me, turning the kids against me. No, I said calmly. I've been preparing. There's a difference. You want to blow up this family because you're bored? I put the knife down, wiped my hands on a dish towel. Because I'm done being owned. He laughed, bitter and sharp. You're not strong enough to do this. I looked him dead in the eye. Watch me. He stormed out. That night, I moved the draft documents to a locked drawer in my closet. I started recording our conversations on my phone, tucked into a sock in my drawer. I saved every text, every email, every time he forgot to transfer the grocery money. I documented everything. Meanwhile, I played the part. I made dinner. I folded laundry. I smiled when Natasha commented on how well I was adjusting. But my eyes were open now. The next day, I picked Tori up from school. She got in the car, slammed the door, and crossed her arms. What happened? I asked. Dad told the counsellor you're unstable, that you've been acting erratic. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. He what? He said he's worried about you, that you're not well. I pulled over, turned to face her. I'm okay, I said. I promise. She looked at me, eyes wide. Then why is he saying that? Because he's scared. And when people like your father get scared, they lie. She didn't say anything, just stared out the window. That night, I sat beside her on her bed. I know this is confusing, I said, but I need you to trust what you see, not just what you're told. She didn't look at me. I don't know what I see anymore. I nodded. That's okay. Just keep watching. The next morning, Cruz was in the driveway talking to Abel, his longtime family lawyer. I watched from the kitchen window as they shook hands, serious and tight-lipped. Later, I overheard him on the phone. I want the prenup tightened, now. I don't care what it costs. Too late. Kendall and Shane had already found the loopholes. The amendments Cruz made after Ty was born weren't properly disclosed. No full financial transparency. No independent counsel for me. It was practically begging to be challenged. That night, I called Kendall. He's panicking, I said. He brought in Abel. Let him, she said. We've got the timeline. We've got the evidence. Let him dig his own grave. I'm ready for the first move. There was a pause. Then, we have everything. You ready to serve? I looked around the kitchen. Ty's drawings on the fridge. Tori's shoes kicked off by the stairs. A life I built with my hands, now being twisted into a weapon. Yes, I said. Let's do it. The next morning, I met Shane at the firm. He handed me a thick envelope with the firm's letterhead stamped in gold. Everything's in here. Filing, disclosures, emergency custody order, asset freeze request. I took it. We serve him this weekend. He raised an eyebrow. Why then? Because Natasha's planning a family brunch. Everyone will be there. He smiled. You're ruthless. No, I said. I'm efficient. Back home, Natasha was in the living room, flipping through travel brochures. Italy is so beautiful this time of year, she said. I booked a villa for all of us. You'll love it. I smiled. Sounds lovely. She looked up, surprised. You're agreeing? Of course, I said. Family first. She beamed. I knew you were coming around. I nodded. I just needed some clarity. That night, I tucked Ty in and kissed his forehead. Mommy, he said sleepily, are we going to Italy? Maybe, I whispered, but first we have to take care of something important. The next morning was sunny. The table was set with mimosas, quiche, and fresh fruit. Natasha wore pearls. Cruz wore smugness. I wore navy. The doorbell rang. Cruz frowned. Did you invite someone else? No, I said, sipping my juice, but I think you should get that. He opened the door. 2 servers in suits stood there, holding envelopes. Cruz Wade, one asked. Yes. You've been served? They handed over the papers. Natasha stood, her napkin falling to the floor. What is this? Cruz flipped through the pages, eyes darting, mouth tightening. Divorce, custody, asset freeze, he read aloud. What the hell is this, Sloane? Legal documents, I said. You'll want to read them carefully. Natasha grabbed the envelope from the other server and scanned it. Her face went pale. She can't do this, can she? I stood. I already did. Cruz didn't speak for a full minute. He just stood there, flipping through the pages like they might rearrange themselves into something less terrifying. Then he looked up, jaw clenched. You blindsided me. I sipped my mimosa. I gave you years. Natasha was still frozen, one hand gripping the back of her chair, the other clutching the envelope like a lifeline. You're tearing this family apart, she hissed. No, I said. I'm cutting myself loose from the wreckage. Cruz slammed the documents onto the table. You think you're going to win? You think some boutique firm and a couple of old files are going to beat me? I walked over, calm and steady, and picked up the envelope. Nah, not some firm, I said, tapping the logo on the front. The firm. Shane James is lead counsel, and I'm on the team. He blinked. You're lying. I pulled out my new business card and dropped it in front of him. His hands shook when he picked it up. You're not even licensed, he said. I passed the bar last month, I replied. Probationary hire, official as of Friday. Natasha sank into her chair like her bones gave out. This is a mistake. You're emotional. You'll regret this. I leaned down so she could see my eyes. No, Natasha, I regret waiting this long. I left them there, surrounded by untouched food and unravelling control. By Monday morning, the fallout had begun. Frozen accounts, emergency custody hearing scheduled, discovery requests filed. Cruz called me 6 times. I didn't answer. He showed up at the house that night, pounding on the front door. Tori opened it before I could stop her. Dad, she said, eyes wide. I need to talk to your mother, he said, pushing past her. I stepped in front of him. You're not supposed to be here without notice. He held up his hands. I just want to talk. I nodded toward the living room. 10 minutes. We sat. He didn't. You're doing this to punish me, he said. No, I'm doing this to protect myself. You're putting the kids in the middle of a war. No, I said. You did that the moment you started hiding money and manipulating our daughter. His face twisted. You're making this ugly? I stood. No, Cruz, I'm making this legal. He stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. The next day, Shane called. Asset freezes holding. He tried to move funds yesterday. Denied. Good, I said. We've also subpoenaed Eugene. He's not happy. Perfect. I drove to the office that afternoon. My name was on the door now. S. Morris. Clean, black lettering. I stood there for a moment before walking in. Shane handed me a thick folder. Custody prep. You'll want to memorize it. Already did, I said. He grinned. You're terrifying. I know. That night, I sat with Tori on her bed while she scrolled through her phone. Dad said you're trying to ruin him, she said, without looking up. I'm trying to stop him from ruining me. She hesitated. He said you're lying about the money stuff. I pulled out my phone, opened the folder of screenshots and documents and handed it to her. Read for yourself, she scrolled, slowly, quietly. When she looked up, her face was pale. He did all this. He did worse. She handed the phone back. Okay. Just that. Okay. It was enough. The night before the hearing, Natasha called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. You think you've won, but you've just made enemies. Family is forever, Sloane. You'll regret this. I deleted it. The courtroom was cold and bright the next morning. Cruz sat at his table with Abel, both of them stiff and silent. Natasha was behind them, sunglasses on, lips pressed tight. I sat beside Shane, files stacked neatly in front of us. The judge entered. The room stood. Then it began. Shane started with the financials, offshore accounts, shell companies, hidden income. I watched Cruz squirm. Then came the prenup, the amendments, the lack of disclosure, the manipulation. I watched Abel sweat. Then came the recordings. Cruz's voice, clipped and cruel, telling me I was lucky he let me buy groceries, that I'd never survive without him. I watched Natasha pale. Then came Eugene's deposition, the buried lawsuit, Alice's settlement, the pattern of coercion. I watched the judge's eyebrows rise. By the time we reached custody, Cruz was shifting in his seat like the chair was on fire. The judge turned to me. Do you feel safe in your home? I held his gaze. Not with him in it. He nodded. Temporary primary custody granted to the petitioner. Assets split to be reviewed pending full discovery. Cruz stood up. This is insane. She planned all of this. I stood too. No, I said. You did. I just watched. I walked out without looking back. Tori followed me into the hallway. I want to come with you. I turned, surprised. Are you sure? She nodded. I watched too. I hugged her so hard she squeaked. Outside, the sun was blinding. Shane clapped me on the back. You just dismantled a dynasty. No, I said. I just ended a sentence. He grinned. You're dangerous. I smiled. I've always been. They just forgot.